We just listened through DAYSEEKER's album Dark Sun. Now we're going to talk about it a little bit. I'll give you some thoughts, a little bit of a track breakdown or track summary, whatever you want to call it. And then we will go into a little deeper discussion with Jordan. So,
you died.
So I was saying while I was listening to this that I think it's going to be a little hard to review this because I am biased towards synthwave. I love synthwave. I listen to it every day. I produce my own synthwave. I massive love for that genre and most things electronic as well. But I came into this mostly, expecting kind of a more metalcore style stuff. I know they're not as heavy, normally, but similar to Dreamwake, which was one of my top albums of this year, which is very progressive metalcore, but with a lot of synth in there as well. So I was kind of expecting a little bit of that, but I'd say this leans way into the synthwave a lot. You really only get like 3 songs here that have any sort of heaviness to it at all. So I'll talk a little bit about some of the tracks here. I'll go through the little track summary that I've got. So you start off with Dream State, the first song. Right off the bat, you get some heavy synth. So it kind of peeks you into what you're about to get into. I will say that. Do appreciate them for having some lyrics on the screen for this one. This is a very emotional album. And so I appreciate when they did put the lyrics in here. Not enough, though. But anyways, I do appreciate that this band does do a lot of third chorus stuff. Jordan and I like to complain a lot that bands overuse the third chorus. They go verse, chorus, breakdown, chorus. And the chorus, that last chorus is usually not needed unless you do something really special with it. Which this band kind of does a little bit. They do change up their third choruses a little bit. Not a lot, but they definitely love their third choruses. I will say that. So then Neon Grave, second song. This one's a little slower. You do get a breakdown on the end. And then I believe you also get a third chorus part, but then it gets another breakdown after that. So I appreciate them for that. Probably one of the best songs on the album for that. Then Without Me, very synthy. A lot of these start to get the same, my little notes here, because it just gets a lot softer. I feel like it mostly gets softer as you go through it. Homesick, another one, very, very synthwavy, a little extra poppy, a little bit more upbeat. Midnight Eternal, slow pop song. That's what I've got written down here. It's basically a slow pop synthwave song. Dark Sun, even more synthwave. That's the one that had the little hidden riff in the back. I don't know if we couldn't tell if it was a guitar or a synth. Whatever it was, it should have been a guitar and it should have been up front. This album definitely needed some more just guitar work. I think just simple guitar work. I'm not saying it needs to be heavy. I could definitely use more heavy, but with this style, I think it just a lot of the songs were fairly basic pop synthwavy, but they didn't really play around with it enough to change it, I think. Anyways, Quicksand, you get a little bit of heavier drums, a little bit of guitar pickup, and then right back into some more songs that are synthwave pop. Again, Paper Heart, basically it's almost an acoustic song. It's still very synthy, but it feels like an acoustic song. Needed a solo again. I was expecting one. It had a build up, and then it just kind of just did a big chorus. It didn't really do anything crazy. Crying While You're Dancing. I thought this was a really good song. I did a reaction for this one. Very 80s pop, a little less synthwavy. It's more of like 80s, like actual like band wise. Like it sounds like Don Henley shit or something. But I do like it, and that one has the 80s solo that I was missing the entire fucking album. Parallel, another soft song. And then Afterglow is the closing song. It's again another soft one, but they do bring the guitar back a little bit. But this one's another one. This one's very touching. I think someone said that Hazel is his daughter. and you can tell some of the lyrics are like he's singing to his daughter and such, because this album supposedly was written because his dad passed away, which you saw in one of the music videos. So I think that definitely you can feel that in this album. This is a very emotional album. Jordan said that they looked it up, and he was only supposed to write like one of the songs, and he ended up writing pretty much the whole thing, which I get. This feels like an outlet. Like he was like, I'm going through some shit, I'm gonna write, and he just wrote a lot of touching shit. I do feel that the album gets hurt by doing that and not having like lyric videos. I think lyric videos would have really helped just bring some light to that, especially when an album is very vocally focused. Show some light on those lyrics. I think it's a really common thing that bands do now, is they skip over that, or labels, whatever. I think that's really necessary when you're very vocally focused like this. So yeah, it's definitely missing some heavy parts. I was really hoping for some heavy parts, and I'm unfortunately going to have to review this as a metalcore album as opposed to a synthwave album, because like I said, I love synthwave, but this is not a synthwave album. He has a synthwave project. And like I said, Dreamwake is another band that does synthwave mixed with metalcore, but they're very metalcore. There's lots of progressive metalcore in there. You do have 2 songs with like breakdowns in this, but then the rest of it just stops all of that, and it just like very synthwave. And I think I don't want it to be all heavy. I like synthwave, but I think they could have just played around a little bit more. Just like I said, add some solos in there. Just bring the guitar in here or there, just to pick it up a little bit, and I think it could be like a masterpiece. They could really, because there's not really a lot of bands that mix synthwave and metalcore in the proper way, and I think I just don't think they have the right mixture here. But again, it's an emotional album, so I kind of understand where he's coming from. It's his outlet, so I understand. But I'm trying to be objective while being subjective at the same time. So anyways, so I and I also think I, as a synthwave enjoyer, there was no toms like transitions or anything in here, and that's like a big staple thing in synthwave. So I feel like they could have leaned more into the synthwave too. It was like kind of just like right in the middle, where it just kind of feels like rock, like a 80s pop rock album with but it's just like missing some parts. I don't know. I did like the bass tone here. The first, or at least the first few songs, the ones where they actually had the guitars and everything in the mix, like they let the guitarist play around, and they let the bassist play around, and the bassist like kind of did his own thing as opposed to the guitarist. It wasn't just like underneath it, and so I really appreciated that when they did it. I just wish more of it sounded like that. I think they just kind of drowned out the vocals, and the synth just kind of drowned out the rest of the band for the majority of the album. But it's still good music. Just, is it a good metalcore album? I don't know. I'll say that after Jordan goes, but I think it really needed some lyric videos to help bring that focus to the vocals that they already had. But that's really all I've got. Jordan, what are you thinking?
Well, it's all right. There's definitely nothing bad. I think it definitely falls way too much into just the synthwave and not really blending any of their other elements in it. And I feel like that's a really like a big detriment to this, because a lot of the songs do sound the same, and I feel like whenever you do just kind of lean on one sound, like you can have that through an album, but you really don't want to. You really want to have some things that stick out and poke out, and there are a couple things, but they're mostly at the beginning of the album, and I feel like they really should have just mixed it in more. I like the vocals, but I feel like because it is so emotionally driven and stuff, they could have used the screams a little bit more. Even if they didn't use it in like the middle of the album, they could have use some at the very end of the album and the very at the outro, and it would have elevated
those
the
emotions.
emotional. Yeah, like if you're upset or sad or something, you're not just gonna sit there and
sing some ballads.
Yeah, you're really gonna be upset. And I mean, I'm kind of speaking for myself, but whenever you have those themes and they are so strong, you want to really accentuate that, and I feel like they really didn't try to, other than with the vocals and having it be a softer album overall. With that being said, I do like the synthwave, but whenever you just kind of have only the synthwave and the synth layers in the background, well, not really the background, but you don't really have the rest of those elements that synthwave brings, like a lot of like the different like guitars and saxophone, or like just having like the toms and stuff like that. I feel like it's pulling from synthwave, but not really utilizing synthwave to its fullest. And I feel like it's the same way with the metalcore or post-hardcore elements. Like they just kind of,
they don't really lean.
I don't know.
Right there in the middle.
Yeah, it's right in the middle without. Yeah, and it's kind of like I don't really understand that. Other than them wanting to go more synthwave, which isn't a bad thing. Like, a band can go any direction they want, but whenever they really only use like those very diluted elements, it just seems kind of flat, I'll say. And I feel like that's kind of the theme of this album. Everything is just kind of very flat. Like there's really not a lot of dynamics other than in his voice. Everything is just kind of like the synth is just there, and then there's the drums that are just there, but there's no embellishment on top of anything. And I feel like whenever you do have that, it just feels like the entire album is very flat, and I really don't like that. I like a lot of dynamics in my music. I like there are a lot of low points and a lot of high points and a lot of mid points.
Yeah.
And I like to be, taken on a journey throughout an album, and I feel like this was just kind of like a stroll.
Yeah. Yeah, you like to not know what's coming, and that's what I kept saying. Like I was like, okay, maybe this would be a good point to transition into like a heavier song or have a heavier part or something. Like just give me a solo or something, but it just kind of didn't.
They didn't, and I feel like he did write most of the album. I'm not gonna speak for like the members and say like, oh, none of the other members really did anything, but like it really feels that way. It feels like this is just like a solo project, and I really don't understand that. Whenever you have a whole they don't have like a 5-piece band, they have 4 people in the band, but like whenever 2 of the 4 people aren't really doing anything, it's like, well, what were they doing? Were they just kind of like sitting back and letting the vocalist do everything? And it's like, I don't really understand that, and I really don't condone that. Whenever you have so many other talented members in the band and you really don't show them off, it feels kind of like this was Rory's project, and like he didn't want anybody else to touch it. And I'm not saying that's how it was, but that's really how it feels. And I kind of get that kind of vibe, and it kind of doesn't. I don't think it works. Specifically for me, but otherwise, like I feel like this is it's all right. It's nothing bad, but it's really nothing like surprising or like wowing or anything. It's just very flat.
Like I said, like if the rest of the album sounded like the first like 2 or 3 songs, like it would have been like really good. It's
And
just
they
that
could
we
have
had
just like mixed the songs around. Like you didn't have to have all 3 of those
Yeah,
songs at the very beginning.
the 3 heaviest ones just like right off the bat, and then the rest is just the slower pop stuff. You know, it's
And then
definitely
whenever you do that, it's like it feels like they're really just kind of like
the
trying
momentum.
to.
Just
Yeah, they're really like letting the momentum fall and really not trying to pull you in. It's just kind of like I really want more out of this because
yeah.
I mean I really didn't think the Dreamwake album was like super like groundbreaking or anything, but they had those elements and they blend them enough to make something interesting and not just have a synthwave project with kind of heavy guitars sometimes and
Yeah.
one scream.
Yeah, which by the way, if y'all haven't listened to or heard of Dreamwake, go check them out. They're like in my top albums of the year. I love that shit. So good.
Yeah, that was a really good album, but this just doesn't do for me at all. I really didn't enjoy it all that much.
All right. Well, so what rating wise, what would you rate this then?
I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
I definitely like. There's 11 songs, and I could have done with like without 4 of them at least. Like it really could have been an EP.
Yeah, EP. Yeah.
And I feel like it would have hit harder, and it would have flowed a little bit better if they kind of would have, you know,
honestly,
done that and kept it shorter.
Kept like the first 3 tracks, and then the last 3, I think, would be like the, you know, just like
yeah,
that
maybe
6th
you
track.
could have kept like that Midnight Eternal kind of like interlude type.
Yeah,
track
that was that true.
Yeah.
True.
But otherwise.
Yeah, you know, I hate to, because I really wanted to enjoy this, and like I said, I did. I like synthwave. I could definitely see myself listening to this, but as you know, I don't want to review it as like a synthwave album, which even still, like I said, it's missing some synthwave parts too. You know, so I don't even know if I could give this high ranks as a synthwave album, either. So it's kind of just in the middle, and you know, I really was hoping for some more. I really wanted to, you know, I get the emotional parts. It's really good. So you know, unfortunately, I have to agree. It's a 6. I think 5 would be too low. And 7's just not. There's just not enough like momentum in there to really be a 7. I don't think. And you know, like even just solos, like just some solos in there to just change up the patterns a little bit. Would have
there was one
made
solo.
a big difference, you know? And especially with the build-ups. They had some build-ups and it just went into like a bigger sounding chorus. That's all they did. So I was like, man. And I wanted to like it. I did want to like it. He did like where everything, man, like it's upsetting because like the screams, the guitar, the breakdowns, literally first 2-3 tracks, and then that's it. Like just fucking quits doing any of that for the rest of the album. It's like, you know, you could do so much more. You have all this talent, you know, use it.
I feel bamboozled.
It does give me interest, you know. I'd be interested in going back to listening to their other stuff, and definitely looking forward to some stuff from the future from them. But as it sits right now, I think this is a 6. And you know, I had some good times with it, but it just needed a little more punch, you know. I think, you know, it just needed a little bit extra.
A little more fizz, you know. We don't like flat soda here.
Yeah. Oh, I can't even. 10% flat? Like, nope. I leave that shit out for 30 minutes. I'm not drinking it. I can't do it.
Yeah.
But all right.